Presiding over the sprawling wilderness of north-central Maine, Mount Katahdin serves as a beacon to those who love the outdoors, calling them north as it has for nearly 2 centuries, since the days when writer and philosopher Henry David Thoreau tramped these very woods and paddled its lakes and rivers. Today, the woods and waters of the Katahdin region are part of the largest contiguous stretch of forest in the continental United States and offer myriad opportunities for adventure and exploration. The choices for recreation are nearly limitless, and that's a big reason people keep coming back. It's the reason I keep coming back. Explore New England is brought to you by your New England Ford dealers. Geico, see how much you could save on more than just car insurance. REI Co-op, REI believes a life outdoors is a life well lived. And visitnewengland.com. Additional funding and support for this episode was provided by Bangor Savings Bank. The Katahdin region, and northern Maine in general, are full of remote camps where vacationers come to unplug, relax, and explore the outdoors with friends and family. One such place is Shin Village, in the town of Mount Chase. Shin comprises a store, a restaurant, a pair of rental homes, 30 campsites, and several well-appointed housekeeping cabins and suites offering views of, you guessed it, Mount Katahdin, some 15 miles to the southwest.
Shin Village is a facility that we have 13 cabin units, 2 of which are lake, waterfront homes. Those will accommodate bigger groups, typically clubs, or like a weekend like this weekend we've got a wedding here, so that'll house the wedding party, the bridesmaids, groomsmen, and then the other facilities vary in size, anything from one of our guest suites that has 2 queen beds right up to a 4-bedroom cottage that'll sleep 8 comfortably, king beds, single beds, a mixture of everything. And then we have camping as well, so people have RVs, tent sites. We kind of try to appeal to everybody in terms of lodging goes.
Owned and operated by the Hill family since 1981, Shin Pond also offers Polaris ATV and snowmobile rentals.
Yeah, so today we're gonna head from Shin Pond here where we are, and we're gonna go across on the south side of Mount Chase, which you could have seen outside our dining room window here, and we're gonna head for Hastings Falls. So this is a hour and 15-minute ride each way.
Okay.
With a real short hike at the end, very short,
nice.
2-minute hike into a set of waterfalls, and the water is probably a little low this time of year in comparison, but still a nice destination to go to.
So how does the trail system work up here? Like, who maintains it?
So, an ATV club will form, and then they basically have to go to each landowner, where they want to get an ATV trail. They have to contact that landowner and obtain permission. Without the permission, there's no legal trail, no access over that land as far as ATV use goes. Some of those landowners might be small landowners, minimal acreage, a couple acres.
Like just an individual?
An individual, maybe they have just a camp and 2 acres of land, but this road may pass through it, or this trail and / road. But then out here, you might have a big landowner who owns thousands of acres.
You mean like a paper company or a timber company or something?
Yeah, paper company, timber company. A lot of times it's families, and then they have management companies who manage it for them, so you have to obtain the permission through that management company. Maine has a lot of management companies where families own the land, but other people manage them for them.
Gotcha. Back on the trail again, Blaine and I drove east for another hour or so until we reached our destination, Hastings Falls. Well, that was a little muddy, but
Yeah, a little bumpy, a little muddy.
that was fun though. So Hastings Falls. So tell me about this.
Yeah, so it's an adventurous ride to get here, obviously, and then it's just a short hike. You can hear the waterfall, just maybe 500 feet into the woods. So
All right, let's go.
Little set of falls.
Let's go look. Hastings Falls. What river is this?
So this is a branch of the Mattawamkeag, and this is, again, we're on private land. The landowner's gracious enough to let us have the trail to get in here to these falls. There's other falls in the area, but they're on land that landowners don't allow ATVs on. So this one's kind of unique in that regard. You can basically ride your ATV in 1 minute walk into the falls. So
Yeah, and you can swim at the base of the falls?
yeah, I've got customers that myself, my kids will come here, and the kids will swim at the base of the falls, and
It's pretty deep.
yeah, it's over my head. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Fishing, I've got customers that come over, bring their rod and reel, and
And you can just walk down the bank of the river here and fish for
Yeah.
what, brook trout?
yeah, brook trout.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. What a great picnic spot. And,
Yeah.
and seems like it makes an ideal like half-day trip for somebody, right?
It is. It's my most popular suggested ride. I mean, it's an hour to an hour and a half, depending on your pace to get here, each direction, and then spend an hour here having lunch or fishing or swimming, and by the time you make that trip, you're a half-a-day rental. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's ideal.
Yeah.
It's nice. You got a beautiful day like today, man. It's a slice of heaven.
yeah. If only we could pick them.
I know, that's true. Even on an overcast day, that would be beautiful.
Yep.
Oh, man. Blaine, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
That was a great, that was a fun half-day ride, and the falls, man, beautiful spot.
Yes.
You're a lucky man to be able to live here.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm glad I get to do stuff like this. That reminds me of where I get to live.
Yeah. ATV riding has become incredibly popular in northern Maine, and many of the trails snake through land held and managed by large timber companies. Timber harvesting is still big business in Maine, as it has been since the early 1800s. Hoping to learn more about the history of logging in northern Maine, I paid a visit to the Maine Lumbermen's Museum, a few miles south of Shin Village in the town of Patten. There, I met with curator Rhonda Brophy, who gave me a tour of the museum and its many fascinating exhibits and historic objects.
This is a sleeping area that the men would have slept in, and like I said, probably up to 15 men would sleep in that area. They called this the deacon's bench. This is where the men sat to put on their boots in the morning, eat their meals. It was an open fire pit, so they cooked right here, and they left the opening in the roof so the smoke would go out. When they came in at night, this would be called a stink pole because they would take off their wet wool clothes and try to dry it, and I guess the odor was very prolific. Yeah, pretty nasty. Like I said, and there's the sharpening stone for their axes and the froe that they used to split the shingles with. We have a wooden sink that they would fill with water to do up what dishes they had or wash up.
Yeah, wow, pretty rustic though, living quarters.
Absolutely, very much so.
And I guess not really meant for the tall lumberjacks.
No. And this, like I said, was probably 30 or 40 years later when there were more men in the woods and they needed better accommodations. So this central part they call a dingle, and we're not really sure why it's called a dingle, because we've never found that word anywhere. But it sounds interesting to say. It sounds interesting. I'm sure somebody will come up with something. Right? So this would have been the kitchen and the cook's quarters. The cooks slept in the kitchen. They would set up the tables for the lumbermen to come in the morning and in the evening. There was no talking at the tables. They had the signs up because they didn't want to hear complaints, and they wanted the men in and out as quickly as they could so that they could go on to the next meal.
And this is authentic.
This is authentic. Yes, it is. And instead of sleeping all under on the boughs, they slept two to a bunk. So they didn't have a bunk to themselves, but it was two. And they had the cook stove here, and again another stink pole. And this I always thought was interesting. This was their towel to wash up with, but it was just a circular towel. So you wipe your hands and pull it down for the next person.
I don't think that's really hygienic.
Probably not. Probably not. Tom, this is our Lombard log hauler.
The Lombard?
Lombard.
Lombard. Well, this thing looks like something out of Dr. Seuss to me.
Well, it could have been. That could have been the idea for it. But back in the early 1900s, when we were using horses in the woods exclusively, it took like many horses to get through a season. And steam engines had come around by that time, so a gentleman went to Alvin Lombard, who had a workshop in the Waterville area, and asked if there was some way they could make a track to go through the woods. So Alvin Lombard patented the first cleat track, which is that circular forward-weighted track that you now see on Army tanks.
Really?
And any Caterpillar bulldozers, they all come from the patent of that track.
Oh, no kidding.
In Waterville, Maine, yes. So like I said, there were only 83 of them ever manufactured of the original steam ones. There's very few left. When they broke down in the woods, they generally left them, took parts off of them to keep the other ones running. But it changed the whole way the woods was logged in the early 1900s. It took us from using, horses in the woods to machinery. Oh. But they left the sides open because this machine had no brakes. So going down steep, if it got away from them, they wanted the steerer to be able to jump off if he had to.
Hey, yeah. Safety first.
Safety first, yeah. Imagine OSHA. This.
You can't travel very far in northern Maine without being reminded that logging remains very active in the region. Logging trucks are seen everywhere, as they now serve as the primary means of transporting logs. Rivers, of course, once filled that role, carrying wood to the sawmills downstream. With log drives now a thing of the past, northern Maine waterways have become a major recreational attraction, supporting such activities as whitewater rafting, kayaking, and, of course, fishing. One of my favorite fishing spots in the whole world is on just such a river, one that offers views of Mount Katahdin's southern flank. The west branch of the Penobscot flows through some of the prettiest country you'll ever see, and the section from Lake Chesuncook to Aball Bridge also offers world-class fishing for landlocked salmon. Home base for my Penobscot fishing adventures is always Chewonki Campground, which rents tent and RV sites along both sides of the river, many of them overlooking the Penobscot's storied salmon pool, the Big Eddy. The Big Eddy swirls and boils as powerful currents sweep over its boulders and ledges, and the cold water issuing from the bottom of Lake Chesuncook allows for consistent fishing throughout the season. To see if I could catch one of the Eddy's monster landlocks, I enlisted the help of Dan Legere, former owner of the Maine Guide Fly Shop in Greenville. Dan is well known for his fishing prowess, and in 2015 he was honored by the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries with the Wilmot Wiggy Robinson Legendary Guide Award. He also happens to be one of the first guides to employ the use of Western-style drift boats on big Maine rivers, and we launched his 16-foot hide on a gorgeous July morning on the Big Eddy.
CEO and so on, and oh yeah,
A little bit better.
One day my father put me out on a stream and said, I'll meet you down at the next pool, and with a fly rod with a Royal Coachman, I think it was, and there was a hatch. Every fish in the pool was going after my fly, and it was that day that I actually learned how to hook trout, and I caught a limit of trout right there. The reason why I moved to Greenville and the reason why I live here is because I can leave my house in downtown Greenville and in 15 minutes be on a wild trout pond all by myself. Within 1 hour radius of our shop in Greenville, there's over 40 trout ponds. And then that doesn't count the rivers and all the lakes and everything else. It's just unbelievable. We live in a little wilderness community. We call it wilderness community. It doesn't take you 10 minutes to be off by yourself, be on a dirt road and find solitude.
After leaving the Big Eddy, Dan steered us through a small set of rapids and into the High Bank pool.
I'll pick the second one. I'm right about 50% of the time. I go, oh no, he took the first one, and you keep bringing him in.
All right. That's a beauty right there.
Very nice.
Nice.
That's one way of doing it is just, yep, you got it. You're good.
Wow.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah,
man.
Nice.
Thank you. Well, that was the fish we were looking for.
That was the one.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can get a bigger one.
We'll keep trying.
Okay. I love it when a guide says that. It's amazing how quickly time passes when you're on the river, and before I knew it, it was time for lunch. One of the great pleasures of a full-day drift boat trip is the shore lunch ritual, and Dan had quite a meal in store. Well fed and content, it was almost hard to leave our sunny spot amid the pines, but the salmon were calling, and so we returned to the river and the mission at hand.
There we go. That's a trout. You think so?
While salmon make up the majority of fish found in the Penobscot, the river is also home to brook trout, and Dan knew of a special spot where they could reliably be caught.
What my granddaughter calls it, but this is a par. Not old enough to get colors.
Yeah, that helps. Yay! Look at that. That is a beautiful fish. Thank you, fish. At around 4 o'clock, we pulled into our takeout spot on the side of the river, where Dan hauled his boat and, after dropping me off at the Big Eddy, headed south along the Golden Road toward his home in Greenville. And so ended a fine day of fishing, as well as a fine pair of adventures, both of them experienced in the shadow of Maine's largest mountain.